Welcome back. Today, I am talking with Dr. Shana Hartman, a former university English professor turned ICF certified embodiment writing coach and a powerful guide for women ready to bring their message to life through the written word. With more than 20 years of experience exploring writing as a tool for self expression, connection, and social change, Shana now helps heart centered professionals move their ideas from intuition into language and from language into legacy. I have known Shanna for a couple of years now, and I know that through her work, she shows us that writing is a transformational practice. She helps women clarify their message, trust their voice, and shape the work that's already living inside them into books, movements, and offers that really can truly scale. So her approach is intuitive, embodied, and deeply freeing, especially for the women who spent years delivering results and are now ready to build something bigger. So, Shayna, I am so excited to chat with you today. And thank you for being here. Well, let's just dive in. I always like to have my listeners start with story. And I know that you have had such a unique path from professor to coach to writing mentor. So, can you just take us a little bit behind the scenes and share more of what led you here?
Yeah. So I kind of knew early on in life as a youngster that I wanted to teach, and particularly English. I'm the English teacher. A lot of people come to become English teachers because they love literature, which is great. I do. I love to read, but I'm not which sounds funny to say since I help people write their books, but I'm not like the hardcore book lover that most people probably would think I would be as an English teacher. I'm always reading something. The reason I love reading is because of what I know it is like to create them and to support people in finding their voice and share them. I think words have always been, and just writing has always been since I was young, just something I've gone to as an overthinker, as many of us probably in this space are, and maybe not always having people hold space for us to share all of that overthinking. I can remember early on kind of having journals and diaries and things like that and writing, notes to friends and whatever. And then that is really what led me into wanting to teach, along with the fact that I would see the way we were being taught. And I have two particular English teachers that I was like, yeah, I don't think this is right. This is the way. It was very top down and very correction focused. And I just remember that not feeling like in my bones. I was like, I think there's a different way to talk about writing and all of that. So went in, got licensed to teach high school, but I always knew once I got to a college campus that I didn't want to leave a college campus. It was freeing and kind of freedom, I eventually realized was sort of one of my values, and especially like flexibility and schedule. So got all the degrees and became a university English professor and really loved supporting people in finding their voice. And so many of my students would come to me with all this baggage, and I see it now with aspiring author clients. We have a lot of stories around our words and what we think we can do and what we are good at and not good at. And it's often because of how we were taught writing in school, unfortunately. And so it was always fun to support those young people and kind of realizing that they didn't have a voice, they did have something to say and share. And then eventually I realized the institution of academia just was no longer a place for me. It was kind of sucking my soul, and I was not willing to stay in that quote stable job, supposedly stable job any longer. And funny, right about that time, I had done something kind of completely frivolous or what felt frivolous at the time. And just for me, I went and got licensed as a massage therapist. So I was working full time. I had young people in my house, family, all that kind of stuff. And I went to this part time 2 year program at a local community college, and it was awesome. Doing that was my first foray into business because I started a little massage practice. And that was also where I was learning to get connected to myself, start to learn like, oh, I have been lost. I don't know who I am anymore, as many of us who have families and children, very easy to do. And right about that time, this was around 2018, I discovered coaching, just some clickbait on the internet. And I discovered coaching and I thought, this is the way out. This is my next step. And it was a personal journey for me to start to receive coaching. It was the first time I was really investing in myself with a coach, just learning how to really get connected to myself and what I wanted and all of that. And so started personal growth, life coaching, mostly with moms who were doing all the things except for themselves. And then I got invited to be a man, and I was still teaching. I had like 3 jobs at that point. Um,
No
I
big,
was
no big deal.
I got invited to help Laura Wick, who is the founder and CEO of Body Mind Coaching Certification. She was developing an online magazine and she asked me to come and support the writers in getting their words ready for these publications she was doing. And that's when I had the big like conk on the head of like, this is how I've always taught is kind of from a coaching framework versus a telling people what to do framework. And I love writing and I love supporting people. Why don't I help? And, these were very heart centered, mission driven humans trying to do good things and put out good things in the world. Why don't we combine these forces? And so that was 2021 when I kind of put together my first little program around writing a book. And I had been published at that point, again, through teaching in academia. That was sort of part of the gig. You needed to do conference presentations, publish articles, had a book out, a collaborative book at that point. But this was sort of the beginning of where I am now. And so now, 30 plus books later, we've got Synergy Publishing Group and just really exploring what wants to come next and how to, as you kind of said, help people realize that they do have something to say. It is important. People do want to hear it. And sometimes a book is one way to get that out there kind of forever and ever.
I completely forgot about the massage therapies, but like you said, sometimes those paths and just the different things that we're doing, it does really make us take a look deeper
Yeah.
and find out what we're really here for and what we're really meant to do. And for you, when you're helping these entrepreneurs find their message, find their voice, write this book. I think so many of our listeners, I know I have been in that place where it feels like, or I am in that place. And I know you and I have talked before, and there's like something holding me back, something that I feel like I'm not ready, or
hmm Who am I? Yeah.
exactly. So, how do you help people get past that? Or is it, when they come to do the writing, those ideas just start flowing? Like maybe walk us through what that looks like for maybe someone feeling that way.
Yeah. So, one of the common things for the people who tend to find us and we work with is they've always felt a tug towards writing and sharing that writing. They probably are doing that in some way, shape, or form. Maybe they have an email list. Maybe they like to post on social media. There's nobody I know, honestly, who's not writing in some way, shape, or form. They probably don't call it writing, which is funny. And part of the work that we do is realizing, like, I think we're always writing. I think we're always creating. I think we've always got stories and things that we're trying to share. Something in us, I always attribute it back to school. Something in us thinks that when we go to fill in the blank, write a book, put it in a Google Doc, put it down in a way that feels a little more formal, like I'm doing it towards a something bigger, something gets wonky in us. And so we coach, I'm never worried about the words. You said, like, do people just get started and it just starts to happen? In a way, yes. Well, that sounds like magic. It's not. It's one that they finally say yes and kind of commit both themselves, their resources, finances to this thing that they've been tugging towards. And if you've ever invested in yourself, sometimes that's the switch that has to be clicked is like, oh, I finally said yes to this. I'm finally actually committing to receiving support around this. And then look how easy it is or easeful it becomes. But I'm never worried about the words coming out. I love coaching, like the writer needs to be supported as much, if not more so than the words. Because when you're saying, I know I have something to say, but I get stuck or I don't know what to say, or I'm worried about, does it matter? Who cares? All of that. That really has nothing to do with the words that wind up on the page. That's your beautiful work that we get to support you through and get coaching on. So that's why, like, I love the way we go about our process of coaching people through and with and around their words and the stuff that wants to come out, the books that want to get created, the journals, the guides, because the words always come. And that's what's different about like just having an editor or a developmental editor or sending out to someone getting feedback. But there's no like, okay, I'm literally had this idea. What do I do? And kind of the interaction that we get to have with our clients and the community that we get to build when we have writing days together and all of that. So usually that whatever the little naysayer voice is that shows up, first realizing it's probably not yours, it's probably somebody else's from your past, a well-meaning grandmother, a well-meaning teacher that is kind of coming forward consciously or subconsciously. And then two, it's more of a little bit of the mindset and what's showing up and loving on that part. We just need to get them out.
Yes, and that's the hard part. Do you find that I'm assuming many of the women that are coming to you, are they writing more like business style books, lifestyle books, or is it all over the place? How do you get to the point? Because maybe they come to you with an idea and then what they write is totally different. Do you get that a lot?
Totally. I was actually just remembering a story earlier with Juliet Kuhn, who's a therapist, a local therapist, and has a couple of practices here in the area that we're in North Carolina. And she had a podcast, Who You Calling Crazy. Her whole kind of motto and purpose in life is to destigmatize going to therapy and people receiving support through therapy. And she's awesome. And in a fun way, like in a really light way. And so she thought the book was going to be take the podcast episodes, transcribe them, which most of them were, and then boom, we kind of throw it together, smooth it out, and we've got a book. When we got into it, we actually started her book. We were at a retreat together, one of our writing retreats, and she was struck like it just wasn't feeling good. And so we had a little conversation, and it was she thought she had to have these other voices, the interviews from these people she had had, who were expertise or whatever in their own right. Because who was she to stand alone and write a book that was just her, right? And so once we kind of unpacked that, it was became really clear as she started to write. Like we were like, what would you really love from somebody who's really on the struggle bus of like, I don't know, this is not really something I'm familiar with, and then it just sort of was like, well, I always talk about this and I always talk about that and I always talk about that. And then it was like, well, that's this section and here's those chapters, right? And it just kind of evolved from there. The book became something different than she initially thought, which was just going to be this resharing of podcast episodes and other people's voices and things like that, and really walking people through what it is like to kind of go on your journey of therapy, answering common questions and things like that. So the book really becomes its own entity. We sort of personify it and it's going to tell you what it wants to be as you start to write it. So I'm all good when people come in and they're like, this is what my book's going to be and da 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 da. Great. Let's start down that road. And then it may stick. That may be it. And then it may not. And that's okay too. That's part of the process. Nothing's gone wrong. It's very normal because the words, you're breathing life into the words and they're going to breathe life back into you. And it becomes this kind of recursive back and forth conversation.
I love examples because they help me really understand it better. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about even in the beginning of that syndrome or that who am I comes back. People dealing with that, it can be hard to get past unless you have someone like you, a mentor or a coach or someone, like you said, investing in yourself to help you see, no, I really do know what I'm talking about because I'm experiencing XYZ or I've had these things. And it may not help everybody, but you're helping the people that you're here to serve.
Yes.
And I think it's important to think of too, like everyone connects with someone in a different way. We might
Yeah.
exact same thing, but the way that you're showing up is different in the way that I'm showing up, right? And
Yes.
so
Yeah. And so our clients wind up writing different things. They might think they're coming in to share their nuggets of wisdom from starting a business, but then maybe they're sharing more personal stories than they realize. So they all are typically nonfiction. We do have some poetry and some fiction writers, but it winds up being this beautiful collage It's kind of its own genre, so to speak. So don't really worry about, am I writing a this or am I writing a that kind of book? And again, it emerges. We can't know until we know what wants to show up. And that can feel a little bit unsettling. But for, again, the people that we're kind of meant to work with, there's usually a nice, oh, I don't have to have it all figured out right here in order to get started. And no, I think that's one of the biggest myths about writing anything, whether they're writing copy for an email or a social media post or landing page or their book or a guide. It's the process of writing
Yes.
helps reveal what wants to be written. And the idea that we're supposed to know before we start and have it all figured out and know exactly, like literally physiologically, the way writing happens in our brain and the way language happens in our brain, it doesn't work like that. It is a back and forth kind of situation, whether that's within ourselves or with other people. So we have to make space for that. And like you said, everybody's a little different. So we don't try to dictate a certain process for people to write. We help people find what process works for them. Some of our people are talkers and they talk their books.
Ooh,
And we, we use that. If that's how they process, then we use that. And yeah, of course, talking is not the same as what you're going to read on the final pages of the book. But it's a lot of people, for a lot of people who process orally well, it is. It's pretty darn close to what winds up being on the page. I'm not like that because I'm ums and all kinds of gaps and whatever. But sometimes that happens. So I'm a little bit all over the place. I have processes and ways of getting words down that works one week and then I need to shift it the next week. So some people are like that. Some people are like, I got to write between 7:30 and 8 in the morning. That's my time. That's it. And there we go. So it's all about finding your particular process. We all do have a process. Because if I said I need blank pages by next Friday, we would all have something we would do or not do. Procrastination is one of them, which is great. It's fun. It's part of the process between now and then to get those pages or those words down.
yeah. So when you said, some people talk their books out, they're, oral, that's how their brain works, right? It reminded me of something I always say when people are writing any of their sales copies. So emails, like you said before, website is I always say to read it out loud first because if it sounds funny when you're reading it out loud, it's likely going to sound funny when somebody's reading it on the page. And so it kind of goes the same with what you were saying before
Yeah.
is when people are reading the book, we want them to feel something, experience that emotional connection, just like in sales copy. So I know they're different, but it kind of aligns where just talking it out. I know that helps me. If I'm on walks, which I'm going on every day, I just talk to my phone and let it take notes.
And if those words that you're talking on your walk are not the words, they are getting you to the words,
Mhm.
right? So just because this is why some people they stare at the blinking cursor and struggle. And I'm like, sometimes it's like, don't try to write the thing. Whatever you're trying to write, like, what if you just stopped trying to write that and just write to write? I don't know what I want to say in this next email. I don't know what I want to write in this. Like I say, write that down. I don't know what you write. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm hungry. It's hot. I'm like you can have a little bit of meta stream of consciousness writing because this is also a physiological thing. This is a muscle literally in our hands that we're flexing and our fingers on the keys. And it's sometimes just like on a walk, that first couple of, quarter mile or whatever, depending how far you're going it's probably the hardest one. But once you get going, you're like, oh, okay, here we go. We're off to the races. So, and this kind of goes back too of like some of the pressure of the like, who am I? I often like remind people too, the book that you write right now doesn't have to save the world. Doesn't have to be the end all be all of you and everything you've ever learned and done and et cetera, et cetera. Like it could just be this tiny microcosm of curiosity and things you're exploring. Your book doesn't have to be the answer to something either. Like it can be an invitation for people to explore. Because again, most of the people, we have enough of similar circles that I know they're curious. They're about helping people find their own way. So why would you write a book that's like, here's how to do it, and this is the only way to do it, right? That's not going to be you. That's likely not what it's going to be about. And so I think we can get stuck because we have this perception of what a book is supposed to be. And then it's like, well, but that doesn't feel good to me. So yeah, why would I write that? But yeah, we
Yes.
feel a tug to write a book, like something's there. But then we go, and it becomes this little back and forth. And it's like, what if it could be whatever you want it to be?
100%. And I think too, that kind of leads into what the book you write has the power to do for you, not only personally, but professionally. It helps you get your name out there. It helps people come into your world. It helps people just see who you are and what you're about and really humanize it. So, what are you seeing with your clients and the results once
Yeah.
they're able to like write and publish their book and get it out there?
Yeah. One is I always go back to it's super transformative just for yourself. So if you're not going to find some kind of personal, yes, there's going to be some painstaking moments. It's not always pretty and easy and light, but because you're literally birthing something out into the world, and it's very similar to birthing a child. The feelings are very similar in many ways, besides the deep, deep pain. But there is a pain. It's just a different level, a different
Yeah.
kind of pain. I always like it really needs to be for you first. I was talking with someone recently and she was like, if no one reads this, I just know that this has been on my heart and it has to get out. And I just trust that me allowing that is going to be supportive to me and things are going to show up for that. So getting curious about, and if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, heck no, I'm not writing a book, it's not going to be joyful to me, then maybe that could be a sign that like maybe that's not for you or not right now, right? If we're putting a lot of pressure on the book needs to do XYZ for me, then that may be something to explore a little bit further and ask some questions and get curious around. But like so many people, the words are first and foremost for them and they needed to get this out for them and they get transformed in the process of taking the time and the space to take what's on the inside, on the outside, and then be able to hold it in your hands. There is never not a tear. Like we always cry when we get the book and we open the package and see our books in our hands. It is super deeply powerful just for ourselves. So that to me is like first and foremost, expect that. And if that desire isn't there, like if you are not really concerned about it, then maybe a book's not for you right now. The other is yes, it is connection. It is absolutely connection. So it allows us to touch people. Books are powerful. They get to go out into the world in ways that we can't expect. We, of course, all the people who love us are going to buy our book because we tell them to, but because they love us. But then we have a story like Kristen Bowen. She's one of our author clients, and she published as a collaborative book author first. And she just had her first solo book come out, caring about Crystal. Amazing. And even just in her collaborative book, the sliver of a story that's now fully in her solo book, she had a friend of her who posted about it on social media, celebrating my friend Kristen, da 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 da. That person bought her book, read her story in it. It was in our Unveiling the Secrets book, and was so impacted that she reached out to Kristen and said, "You've given me a way to talk to my daughter who is struggling with XYZ." Like, I don't think there's anything Kristen could have done that would have created that kind of impact. So those kind of little things, I can never tell you and guarantee you exactly what they're going to be, but I always can guarantee there's going to be some unexpected impact that you could not probably have made that connection if it were not for your book. We have another client who lives in Canada, and another person in our writing community bought her books when it was published, and she was giving it out at her hair salon here to anyone who like was. She was like, "Oh, you're talking about what this friend of mine, Helinka, writes about. Here you go." Well, Helinka's in Canada. She's not going to connect with someone in Charlotte, North Carolina, in person. Not with any ease, right? So little fun syncopations and connections like that. And then, yes, it is street cred. No doubt about it. Books still hold big time street cred, meaning we recognize that for you to take the time, the energy, the effort to put your words down and put them between two covers and take the time to do all that organization, structure, everything, that tells us something about that person. And it is absolutely a potential connection, either in a network or a future client or helping someone with that kind of know, like, trust factor. It's like, hey, I'm considering you. Oh, you've written a book too? Wow. Okay. There must be something here. And here's the thing, it's not a trick, but like you may have only genuinely sold 50 books. But if you've got a program that's $5,000 and because someone just sees and goes, oh, wow, they've got a book too, and they're showing up in these different ways, and then they step into that program, that's the kind of stuff like the new pathways of connection and sharing that typically we don't see in the same ways just through email marketing and social media marketing to the people that it means something to. It means something.
Like you said, it's not only transformational for yourself first, and that's always what it should be about. Because I think if you're having the end goal of like you said, I need this book to do XYZ for me in terms of sales and leads, and you're probably not going to get the outcome you want.
Yeah.
Uh, but once you do the work, you've shown up, it is naturally going to help you connect with others and connect with the right people. And that example made me think of something. There's another gal that I'm thinking of potentially working with, and she has a book. I'm like, well, maybe I'll read that first and see what it's all about, and then go into her higher ticket program, right?
Yeah.
Because it has the power to do that as well.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm just naturally a reader, and I love like the feeling of real books and reading the words because I'm tied to a screen all day, or we're looking at our phone. So just having the real written word, I love.
Yeah. So I always talk about the ecosystem that our author clients are building. And our signature program is called Legacy Author because they're typically not just writing one book, there's multiple things that they're going to be putting out. But it's not that the book is the way to whatever else they're creating. It's that putting their energy towards their words and what wants to come forward, their messages that they want to share opens up the space for the other things that they might be creating to come through as well. So the book supports the rest of the branches on the tree, and then the rest of the branches on the tree support the book. It kind of becomes another level. So for me, I don't have to worry about not having like a low ticket offer. I've got a book, got multiple books, right? Go buy my book. Great. Love it. $18, $10, whatever, the ebook. It's like an automatic another way for people. It's an accessibility, nice and accessible way for people to get connected to you as well, who maybe can't. So it's a way to grow your reach in that way too. For people who maybe aren't, yes, it can be a gateway into getting to know you and working with you in your higher ticket programs. It can also be a nice accessible way for people who probably aren't ever going to work with you in that higher ticket program. So there's a little bit of both in there.
Yes. And so you mentioned too, and what you were talking about is the collaborative books. And I think that's a really cool way for people to get started.
Yeah.
And if it is really for them, but also to just like understand the process of writing and get their feet wet. So maybe share more about how you work with people in that way.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to some of the conversations I know you're having lately around really designing your business in a way that feels aligned. I want everyone to know that they're a writer, to think that they're a writer, to believe that their words and their voice is important and powerful and can be impactful and make change and all of that. And not everyone's going to come and do legacy author, which is kind of a long term, we're with you, we're helping you build these things. It's not a 6 month, 3 month thing. And so we got really curious. My first ever publication book, Thinking Out Loud on Paper, was around teaching using composition notebooks, which was just like a messy space that we would let our students, shocker, like similar things always. But it was co-authored with 6 other authors. And that book still makes sales and is something that I tap into and connect with and people talk to me about. So we started to think about it and look at the conversations we were having in our writing community. The first ever collaborative book we did was capturing the in between, just the idea that we're always in this liminal space. And what does that mean? We're shifting out of where we were, but we're not quite where we maybe want to be. And the discomfort of that, the fun of that, the excitement of that, the terrifyingness of that, all of the things. And so we said, hey, do you guys want to contribute? And it was for people who were considering writing a book. They wanted to write a book, but then writing the whole last book themselves was a little bit terrifying. But writing 5 to 10 pages felt like, oh, okay, I could do that, right? Contributing a chapter or a piece to it. So that's sort of how it got started. And it was just a nice way for us to, like you said, sort of help people gain some confidence and get published. They're published. There's plenty of people who you are a published author if you have contributed to a piece that has multiple, it's co-authored, multiple authors. What we love about how we do it, because now we have a book series, and that's our collaborative book series, Unveiling the Secrets of da 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 different things, is we keep it small. A lot of collaborative books will pile in. I mean, I'm seeing like 200
Mm.
authors. And that starts, again, we go back to like the integrity, the alignment piece. One, for one book, that's not sustainable for our team to genuinely help someone with their words when it's 200 people in one book. The other thing is just logistically on, for instance, like Amazon books, you can create an author page, but you can't tag yourself and connect that book to you if it's more than 10 people in the book.
Interesting.
So they can't, it won't show up on your author. So that's like a small little thing, but it kind of is important to us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Because it won't show up in the same way. Yes, people will still have access to it, but only if they go one way to that book. So it sort of became a thing where we kind of made a commitment of, all right, we'll have multiple collaborative books going, but we cap each one of them intentionally in a small number so that maybe people want to write more pieces or longer pieces. I mean, we have people who do poetry in them, and so they write multiple poems. And it just allowed us to do, again, back to our intention of creating a community of writers that feel seen and heard. That's hard to do when you're dealing with like giant, giant numbers. So this was sort of our way of like, well, this is something we think we can bring to the masses. How can we do that, but stay in integrity of what we know is supportive of not only our mission, but also people who genuinely want to feel seen and heard? Okay, well, we can have multiple books going, but they each only have a certain number of authors in them. So it's been really fun. And now we have some of our author clients who want to lead collaborative books. And so we're supporting them in that. So it's just been this really nice way of kind of expanding the business, and it's still evolving and growing, and we don't know what we're doing and we do all at the same time.
Yes. Okay. So many ideas from that, but I love that you share that because I think it is really important in the way that we're building our businesses and defining our offers to just always be in alignment and integrity because that way it's going to stay fun. You're going to continue to love what you're doing and you're still learning and growing and evolving along the way. It doesn't mean what you choose today has to stay, even just like you said with writing a book. You're going to learn what people love about working with you. You're going to learn what people don't like and how you can make a bigger impact.
Yeah. And let's get paid while we're doing that.
Yes,
No,
exactly. Exactly. Like, don't build the whole dang thing first.
no, no.
Practice while you're going and see what's working. And so I'm always telling my clients that too of like, let's just get it started. Simple first, and then we figure out and we build all the things to go with it. Because otherwise, we're going to get stuck in build, build, build mode. I know I have been there, I was there, and it's really easy to get stuck. Everything that was working before isn't going to work because you're not focusing on that. And so just simplifying, streamline, taking it back to the basics, and just being aligned with how you really want to show up. So there's one more question I wanted to ask you before we close this up. Well, actually two questions, but I would I would be remiss if I didn't ask about AI. How are you either building it in with people writing a book? Like, how do you see AI in all of this?
When I just remind everybody, like, spell check. is AI. So one, it's new, and I think these new ways are can feel very like, oh my gosh, you could do this. But we've had people taking people's words forever and ever. And so the idea of copyright and all of that kind of stuff is still at play. I think why it kind of gets fuzzy with AI is because it's literally like pulling from so many different places all at one time that we really just want to be super intentional about what we're doing. So I always get curious when someone shares something. Hey, can you give this a read? Great. And I've had this. We get to know our clients and their voices and their style of writing pretty quickly. That's sort of the magic of one of the things that I'm good at is like, I can understand the spirit of your words. And so when something starts to wiggle off of that, and as I'm reading, I'm like, this is great. But right about here, it didn't sound like something shifted. And they were like, oh, yeah, I was using AI for that part. Oh, okay, great. Do you want the voice to, like we get to have a conversation. Why are you using AI? What is that for? Right. So a lot of times I don't have a problem with spitballing ideas. Hey, I'm thinking about this. Ask me questions. Even though our clients do not do this and we do not support this, I'm honestly not mad at the go write a book. I want to write a book about da. AI, give me the outline, or AI, go and write it. Like, I don't hate the game. It's like, and like it's there, it's a tool and people are using it. And there's a part of me it's like, okay, it is what it is. I trust that that will sort itself out in the universe, divine, whatever, as it needs to. Like, I don't necessarily throw shade. It's not how I would do it. It's not how our clients do it. But it's like, yeah, it's there. So first and foremost, I always am like, when someone thinks, I don't know what to write, let me just go to AI, right? To ChatGPT, to Gemini, whatever. I get to check in and say, like, okay, why do you feel like you need? Well, I don't know what to write. Okay. I can work with that. I can support you in that. If it's coming from a place of lack, of I can't do this, so I go over here to do it, right? There's plenty of support around people who have are neurospicy and diverse, and they've got ways that their brain works that AI super duper helps them. So maybe they've written something and they say, "Hey, can you help me like clean this up a little bit, or make it clearer, or ask me questions so I can clear it up." Love all that. That's great. Like I love it when it's helping you dive deeper or making something accessible in a different way. But when we're coming at it from a place of lack, that's where like I can't write this without, right? Like I can't possibly come up with something. Who am I? Back to that, who am I? I don't have
Mhm.
anything smart to say. I can't really do this. That's where I'm like, that's not exactly true. Let's get coaching around that. The other thing that sometimes people need to be mindful of is they will go to AI almost like a source, meaning I've had talked through and supported someone recently. They said, I went to AI and said, what are the top whatever skills for, I'm just going to make something up, boating, right? Of course, AI is going to give you one, two, three, four, five. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. The problem with that is what you're doing is you're actually trying to show credibility to the reader by saying, I've gone and found, a source, information about this. Let's actually go and find an article or research or whatever and cite that versus just a monster mash of Frankenstein of AI's pulling in from sources. But there's no citation, right? That's the whole thing is we want to give credit where credit is due. So it just takes an eye to know like if I'm citing statistics, I always want to have a source versus AI or presenting it as factual information, but there is no source and it may have come from AI. So those are probably the biggest, maybe like, that doesn't feel great. And I think there's perfectly easy workarounds for that that I am always happy to support someone with. So yeah, it's here. Yay. It's helpful. I mean, I'll have conversations with ChatGPT every now and then, and it just helps, like, if that jolts you off, then you're off to the races on your own. Like that's totally cool with me. It's when you're feeling like you can't or you have a lack and then you're going to these sources, or you're trying to sound credible and you're going to AI, like there's other ways and better ways to do it.
Yes, I 100% agree. And I think I've been thinking about this the last couple of weeks because I use AI a lot and it is an incredible tool. But
Mhm.
I also have been thinking, I did this all myself before AI, right? I did all of the copywriting. And yes, it took me a lot longer, but I sometimes think now it's made me like way more impatient. Like, hey, you should be able to spit this out in like 10 minutes versus hours.
Right. Yeah, maybe that's it too, is looking at what am I trying to shortcut here? Like it so and this maybe points to like your bigger picture conversations you're having around alignment and not hustle and grinding. If we're coming at it from an efficiency, like I've got to be efficient and this helps eliminate inefficiencies. Okay, does that match up, right, with big picture values and all of that sort of thing? Because some things might need to take time for a reason, you know? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, because and that's where I come back to is yes, I'm using it for all my writing for my clients, but I'm still going back and putting the human into it. It's really helping ideas, structure, flow, but it's all coming from we're interviewing the client's clients, we're talking, we're learning their voice. We're just using it as a tool. But on the other hand, for all the things I'm doing for myself, I've been wanting to, and I know I should just do it because I'm saying it out loud. So maybe I'm going to
Okay.
like
Yes.
challenge myself. For me, confidence has been a big thing, right? And so just putting myself out there online, like I have a love hate relationship with social media, but not using AI when I'm going to post, like just
Mhm.
posting something that comes from me, comes from the heart, and not necessarily for anyone else's eyes or to see, but for me, myself to be confident that like I
Yeah.
can still do this. And also, everything is starting to sound the same. And the words, like the new thing it says is like, you're not being louder. You don't have to be louder, or we're quietly doing everything. Like those words are coming on Chat GPT all the time. And it's like, that's not how we're talking.
Yeah.
I love how you're doing it with your authors is it's not writing it for you, but if you're getting stuck or you're just needing those ideas.
Yeah. Like a little assistant, or just that little, I mean, it happens in our writing communities too. Someone says something and they just like, oh yeah, and they say another word or say it in a different way. And then you take that and you go, oh, like that idea is similar. So I think it's the intention and the way and all of that. And I don't know. Yeah, I like it as an assistant for sure. And then I'm always reminded to like confidence, I think this is a Tony Robbins quote that I'm stealing here, is a result, not a requirement.
Mhm.
Do it messy. And I was gifted with also a beautiful conversation on Instagram that I stumbled upon and just talking about like how to be when you're feeling overwhelmed, you're not sure what to do, how to help, how to be of service, all of these things. It was like, you got to do it wrong in order to do it right. Not
Mhm.
even like before you do it right, like in order to do it right, quote, right. You got to do it wrong first.
Yes. Okay. So now that everybody's listening, we talked about it. I'm going to do it and you can hold me accountable.
I love it. Do
Oh,
something, do it often, let it be messy. Yeah.
yeah. And let it be from the heart and be real.
Yeah.
That brings us back to connection and community and relationships. And now more than ever in this crazy world we are living in, connection is so, so important.
Yeah.
So,
And our
then
stories connect us, our words connect us. I mean, that's ancient is storytelling and learning from each other through story and through words and through language.
okay, that is a perfect way to round out our episode. So, I always love to ask at the end how you define success today because everyone defines it differently. And I think we get caught up with the way things are supposed to be, or we think they're supposed to be because the way we're seeing it online,
Yeah.
but it always means something different to us. So, how are you defining success?
Okay, I'm going to answer it in a silly way first because it showed up and I cannot not say it. And it allows me to like shout out my son who was just in Beetlejuice Jr. the musical here in Charlotte. And
Love it.
one of the characters who's the life coach to Lydia, the main character who's going through things. She says, "Success, as my guru says, is first it sucks, then yes."
I love that. Oh my
That was
gosh.
my dad joke for the day, and I don't really believe that. I probably use that word less and less when you're asking me that. I was like, does that word even align? And I think for me, if I were defining it and saying, yes, I need to use that word, I want to use that word and define it, it's really staying committed to I've been talking about like the dirt of me, like just really grounding down into who you are, how you want to be. And if you're not sure about that, like doing whatever you need to do, getting support or taking time and tools to find out who you are and how you want to be and what lights you up, and just being like no holds barred committed to that, because that's when we show up for each other authentically and clear and typically, less stressed. It is not comfortable. We were talking about that before we got started. It's not always comfortable to stay committed to what you value and honor. And for me personally right now, it's like I I am fully committed to not being busy, to not hustling and grinding, whatever that is supposed to look like. And that may mean that less comes in, whatever that may be, less clients, less opportunity, less financial things. And I know that when I do that, more or expanded things show up as a result. So it feels contradictory, but it's actually super intuitive. So I think I would define success as when I am fully committed to staying fully committed to myself and what I value, and really not straying from that and making decisions and taking action from that place.
Thank you. That's really powerful. And it can be hard, like you said, to stay committed. Maybe when things feel harder than they should or kind of go off the rails, it's like, nope, this is the decision I made. And when you can fully commit and stay committed, different and or better opportunities will show up because you're giving yourself that time and space that you need.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
so thank you so much. If people want to finally write a book or be a collaborative author or just see if maybe it's the right fit, where can they find you? How can they go further with you?
Yeah. So Instagram is my kind of fun place to share. We have mine, which is the Shana SHANA_V on Instagram. We also have Synergy Publishing Group on Instagram. And then if you kind of want to keep diving into maybe unpacking your stories around writing and just getting some support, you can head to shanahartman.com/writing is not that hard. That's the title of my most recent book. And use the code unscripted 2025. We'll put it in the show notes, I'm sure. It's a $7 book, but you can have it for free. And then there's a little fun training that comes along with it, a little workshop, just to help you really get connected to yourself and your words, and then use that as you see fit. And if you want to skip all of that and jump to the head of the line and talk about the book and all of that sort of thing, just reply, find me, send me a message, and we'll get you where you need to go.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yes, I will have all those links in the show notes. And Shayna, you are amazing. And I always have so much fun talking to you.